Hello and welcome back to Thompson Bowling Arena, Food City Center, whatever you want to call it. The Vols are back in Knoxville, though, after a long road stand, if you want to call it that, with most of the games being at the neutral site in Hawaii. But 4 tough contests for Tennessee leading into this one. They go 1-3 in them on a 3-game losing streak, but they get back on track tonight with a win over George Mason. Your final score, 87-66 in favor of the Volunteers. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And Noah, what was your takeaway from this 21-point win tonight?
Yeah, yesterday we talked to Rick Barnes, obviously on this court, right before they started practice, and he was asked about Santiago Vescovi and his response, what it had been like. Obviously, you know, if you remember after that North Carolina game, Rick Barnes kind of singled him out. He wasn't very happy with his performance, got in some foul trouble early, stayed off the floor for a lot of that first half before Rick Barnes talking like he kind of was forced to put him back in that game, even though he kind of didn't want to. He was asked yesterday about his response in practice. I asked him about it again, what he thought of his response in the game, and he cited how yesterday he wasn't happy with the practice. He didn't even talk to the team and shoot around. He was kind of that upset. He said he expected guys like Santiago Vescovi, Josiah-Jordan, the guys you'd expect that have been around this program to kind of be that voice when Barnes isn't there. Said he was happy with that response in the game. Obviously, Josiah, a guy who's playing maybe at his highest level since he's been at Tennessee here in these first 7 or 8 games. Santiago Vescovi, it's been kind of hard for him to kind of find his role now that Dalton connects on this team, Jordan Gainey coming off the bench. But he said he was pleased with the way he responded tonight. Scored 7 points, but only picks up the 2 fouls. Overall, felt pretty good about the way he responded in the game and just really that senior leadership overall.
A response game for Santiago Vescovi. Also a return to the court for 3 guys. Dalton Knecht rolls his ankle at the end of the UNC game. With about a 6-day period in between matches, he doesn't actually have to miss a game, but there was questions on if he would be able to return for this one. Came out yesterday, day to day. Well, it ended up being just the 1 day because he was back in action tonight, played 25 minutes and looked fine, I would say. Didn't look like there was any issue with the ankle. Finishes the game with 10 points, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, 4 for 11 shooting for him. So probably his worst game as a Vol so far, but the standard's so high with what he's set, that doesn't mean it was a bad one. But he's getting back into the swing of things. 25 minutes, that didn't seem like a minute restriction, didn't seem like he was laboring at all. So good to see that for Tennessee and Dalton Knecht with the top 25 team in Illinois coming to town. 2 guys that did have to miss action, though. Tobe Awaka, another ankle injury, rolled in Maui. He missed the UNC game, was able to finish out that tournament, but wasn't able to get it going in Chapel Hill. He returns, and he looks really solid as well. Puts up a career-high 11 points on 4 for 6 shooting and grabs 7 rebounds. And then Freddie DeLeon, the 5th redshirt freshman, age of a true freshman, joined the program early. He hurts his foot against Wofford about a month ago, the last time Tennessee was at home. He's been sidelined ever since then. Minute restriction for him tonight. He plays about 8.5 minutes today. Looked all right. 3 points for him, an assist and 2 rebounds. I asked Rick Barnes about his thoughts on that performance. Said he's got to kind of build back into the player that they know he can be and become. But overall satisfied with those 3 guys and their return, and none of them really looked unhealthy out there, which is a great sign. What else did you think of?
Yeah, the bigs for Tennessee. That was, I just mentioned how Rick Barnes wasn't very happy after the North Carolina game, but he had a lot of praise for Jonas Aidoo in that game, and we've heard a lot about it going back to early on in this season, how they want to work the offense through him, how much of an emphasis they put on him. Rick Barnes has talked about, I have told him since he's been here, you can be as good as any big in the country. He would know since he's played 3 preseason All-Americans in the last 4 games down in the paint. Jonas Aidoo, a career-high 17 points tonight for Tennessee. I think he also finished with 8 rebounds as well, so very close to getting a double-double there.
Ties his career high with 4 assists. Put that out there.
And 2 threes tonight. So, I mean, a guy that players and coaches talked about, they want to move the offense through him. He's been a big piece of this offense. He did it against North Carolina. Does it tonight, a little bit of less pressure, in front of your home crowd in the game. Tennessee wins comfortably. So a big night for him. And you mentioned a second ago, Tobe Awaka in his first game back since the Maui Invitational. Comes off the bench, like you mentioned, 11 points, a career high for him as well. So Tennessee kind of got the most out of their bigs tonight. They were a huge part of the game.
Yeah, maybe getting some frustration. Now you play Zach Edey, Hunter Dickinson, and Armando Bacot in back-to-back games. Probably feels good. Nothing against the George Mason bigs, but just a different level of play compared to these guys who are the best of the best at the position in college basketball, and some of the best centers we've seen in this game in a long time. And then compared to a mid-major team, probably felt good to be able to get some steam off, I guess, against that type of competition. If we have to nitpick something, figure out an area that didn't go right for Tennessee tonight, though, it was the perimeter defense. It's usually a strength of Tennessee, one of the better defending teams in the country. George Mason was able to get their shots off and able to hit them at a good clip. 11 for 25 is that final line, shooting on three-pointers, 44% from three. Sometimes guys are just making shots, but I think Tennessee's definitely going to look to tighten up that perimeter defense. There are times where they just weren't able to maybe get around a screen, contest a shot, and it was just a little bit too open. And when you play a team of the caliber of Illinois, who's coming to town, you can't give them open looks like that, or else that score, you're going to be falling behind. We saw in the first half against UNC. Another situation where UNC was hitting some good shots and making the opportunities that they had, but Tennessee definitely would want that first half back in terms of guarding the three-point line and not falling back into that early deficit. So that's something to look out for. Probably the biggest weak spot in this team against UNC and now against George Mason as well. But as I said, Illinois coming to town on Saturday. Make sure you head to VolReport.com to stay informed heading up to that game. Lady Vols playing MTSU in Huntsville tomorrow. I will be there for that coverage, and then Citrus Bowl coverage coming up for the next month as we prepare for that on the football field. Head over to VolReport.com. Links to everything you need is in the description, and thank you for watching.